This year is being given as part of TORAH LA. TORAH LA is a project of the Orthodox Union's West Coast Division, bringing together dozens of shiurim for a day of Limud Torah. Usually, this event is in person, but we are doing it electronically this year. Be'ezras Hashem, we will be able to in person in the near future, and we thank the OU for all the work that they do. With that, we have the great honor of having Reb Tzvi Ryzman with us in conjunction with the link Kollel to give a shiur on entering a church to vote. Is it permitted? We thank you very much, Reb Tzvi, for all the effort you put into this shiur, and we look forward.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Rabbi Lebard. Thank you very much, Chavrei Kollel. Thank you, the OU, for organizing this year as well. The shiur maybe 2 weeks late because the vote occurred 2 weeks ago, the vote for presidency, but it will occur for presidency in 4 years, in a couple of months, in 4 years, and soon enough we'll have some other votes. So the question is really realistic because it happened just a couple of weeks ago in Crown Heights. So the church organized the place to be voting for the Crown Heights people in a church. Are we allowed to go into church? So I decided to bring some Maramikoimis and let's find out, have fun learning the shiur, find out whether we're allowed to go into a church. Sometimes we're allowed to, sometimes we're not allowed to. Let's start with page number 1. Page number 1, I have a letter from Moshe Feinstein that he wrote in October the 3rd, 1984. You guys have the letter in front of you. And in the letter, Moshe says that there's a mitzvah to vote. Why is a mitzvah to vote? By the way, the Moshe wrote it in English and he signed it even in English. If you look at it, it's amazing. And Moshe says, Akoras Atov. We have Akoras Atov to the Medina, and Akoras Atov to the state, for helping Jews coming, especially after the Holocaust. And therefore, Moshe says, whatever we can do, we should do for the country. And therefore, it's an obligation, so to speak, to go and vote. If that's the case, maybe that will be enough of a reason to go even maybe to a church. Because if you don't go to a church, you don't go, it might cause Ava. Ava is something that we are wondering whether the Goyim can look at us in a very not favored fashion. And for that, Mitzvah de Rabbanon is allowed to be not done, not fulfilled, because Ava from Goyim, for instance, when we had the riots in Los Angeles a couple of months ago, there was a question of Ava, because the organization, the BLM, decided to vote to go and fight us, not fight, demonstrate in the Jewish neighborhood. Why did they pick the Jewish neighborhood? There must be a reason they picked the Jewish neighborhood. And therefore, for Ava, we could have done certain things. And there was a question whether we're allowed to be Mechalel Shabbos. Shabbos is Issur D'Oraisa. Are we allowed to be Mechalel for that, for Ava or not? Only the Ritva holds it's even Issur D'Oraisa. Ava is a issue that even with the D'Oraisa you are allowed to be Mechalel, but many Postim don't hold like that. But now, into going to a church. Going to a church, what is the issue? The truth of the matter, if you look at page number 3, the Posuk says in Parshas Va'era, Vayomer Rav Moshe Ketzesi Yisrael, Efros et Kapi El Hashem, and Rashi says, Ketzesi Min Ha'ir, he didn't want to daven, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to daven in Cairo, in Egypt, in the capital city where Paro was, because לפי שהייתה מלאה בגילולים. And the Sefer Hasidim says as follows right away, אין להיכנס בבית עבודה זרה, you're not allowed to go, enter into בית עבודה זרה, שנאמר גבי אליעזר, ואנוכי פיניסי אס הבייס. And therefore you're not allowed, it's a mocker from the Pasuk, you're not allowed. The Gemara actually in Avodah Zorah, the Gemara is in Daf Yud Aleph, the Gemara says that you're not allowed to leave, not to leave, L-E-A-V-E, but to live. L-I-V-E, not allowed to live in a city where avodas kechovim. B'zman hazeh, says the Rambam, you have to, we do. But why? Because, so to speak, we like to live in a city like Paris. Beautiful churches there. In England, in London, beautiful churches there. Is that the reason we want to live? No, but people will think it's chashad. If I go into a church, the Gemara says, it's a chashad, maybe you go into a church. You're not allowed to go into a church. And therefore, if you look at page number 5, I put together all the isurim why you're not allowed to go into a church. I put it together. It's from a sefer called Avodah B'Ruach. It's a beautiful sefer on Avodah Zorah. And he says as follows, נחלקו הראשונים, מדוע אסור להיכנס לעיר שיש בה עבודת זורע? וכמה שיטות, רש"י, ר"ן, נימוקי יוסף, סוברו בגלל האיסור הוא משום חשד. ואסור להיכנס כדי לספר עם אחד בבני העיר. We suspect that maybe you go into Beis Avodah Zorah, you go into Avodah Zorah's house, to this church, you maybe go down there. Oh, it's you going over there. You're not allowed to, and therefore, you're not allowed. The Ravid says, Lifi, Shinire Kollel, Lisa Umatan Imaem. He's going to do some business Imaem. Still, you're not allowed to go into the church. The Rashba says, only in the time of a Yerid. If there is a market, there's a show, a big show, you're not allowed to go there. Because many people get there for COVID of the Avodah Zorah. For COVID Avodah Zorah, you're not allowed to go in. The Ritva says the same thing because of COVID. Kesefisha says, Nirkenene. You enjoy going into the church. If somebody goes to the Vatican and goes to see the 16th, that's the area that everybody wants to see Michelangelo's paintings on the walls, on the ceilings. For that, I enjoy it. You're not allowed to enjoy from Avodah Zorah or Avizerai with Avodah Zorah. Therefore, you're not allowed to go in. Okay. Is going to a church today an Avodah Zorah altogether? Are the Christians Avodah Zorah? I don't want to go into that issue because some people say the Christians are not Avodah Zorah at all, the Meiri. Some people say that it's not Avodah Zorah because the Shituf is Avodah Zorah. And if there's no Shituf, they, Goim, are not, and the Trinity, Goim, are not Mitzvah on Trinity. As long as they mention Shem Hashem is good enough. Jews are the one that's obligated not to mention Trinity, and therefore, maybe it's not Avodah Zorah. But let's assume, says the Yabi Omer in page number 6a, yes, it is Avodah Zorah, and Christianity is Avodah Zorah, and you're not allowed to go in. However, he says a mosque for the Muslim, no, Muslim is not Avodah Zorah, and therefore you are allowed to go into the mosque. However, I'll skip many pages and tell you that the Kloisenberg Rebbe and the Tzitz Eliezer, both of them, forbade to go into a mosque. And not only that, they forbade to go into Ma'aras HaMachpelah. Most of the Jews do go into Ma'aras HaMachpelah. Some don't go to the Kollel, but they go to Ma'aras HaMachpelah. Ma'aras HaMachpelah, the Kloisenberg Rebbe says you are not allowed to go into the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. Why? Because it is a mosque. A mosque is Avodah Zorah, according to him. So you see right now a machlokes with regards to the mosque. However, let's assume both are Avodah Zorah. What is the real mitzvah? To go into a mosque. In page number 6c, it says a little bit different. Mitzvah, the Shulchan Aruch says, mitzvah lisrachek miderech helilim. A mitzvah lisrachek miderech helilim, daled amos. So don't go into a church. And if you don't go into a church, you're better off. The question is here, we need to go. My partner is a goy. My partner makes a chassan at the church. Am I allowed to go into? He's my partner. I see him almost every day, but Shabbos. Am I allowed to go to the church? Just for that. People say, maybe yes, maybe no. Again, there's a reason. I don't go, I don't enjoy the Avodah Zorah. I don't go, people know, very few people see me going to the city where I work with, in City of Commerce. There are not too many people there that see me going. So I don't know if there's a matter of chashad. It's not Maris Ayin. Maris Ayin, afilu b'chadrei chadorim also. Chashad is different than Maris Ayin. Rav Moshe talks about it. There's another reason to differentiate. However, Rav Moshe seems very clear in page number, the page number is 8 or 9. Rav Moshe says, "Osu leikanes הכנסייה של נוכרים ואין לעקל בזה אפילו משום דרכי שולם ומניעס איבה." You're not allowed to go in. And he is very tough on going into a church he talks about primarily about a church, a Christian church, not to go in. And that's what I really want to spend time with you and see. Sometimes you are allowed to, definitely for Pikuach Nefesh. If you see page number 11 talks about Kriyat Cherum La'atzalat Adam Animtza B'Knesiya. Somebody who is somehow got into a church, even not a Jew, non-Jew, and all of a sudden he's in emergency. He got a heart attack. Are you allowed, as a solo member, allowed to go in? The halacha is you're allowed to. And he brings, Alperi brings in Asya, he says over there, להלוכה, פיקוח נפש דוחה איסור כניסה לבית אבות הזורע כפסקו הדור של הראש. וכן משמע שיבולי דוד, and there's no question you're allowed to go, and therefore, even in the hospital, if there are church, there's crosses all over, St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica, and people, Jews go in, doctors, Jewish doctors, from doctors go in, ladies who give birth at that hospital, they are allowed to go in. Rav Moshe passed the halacha that you are allowed to go in page number 14, in Masoras Moshe, Rav Moshe says, באולמות שחלק מבתי החולים שהיו הרבה צלמים ותמונות של עושה האיש, Jesus picture is there, ורק שוב פעם בחדרו של רבנו לא היה, אמר לרבנו שאין איסור להיכנס לבית חולים זה. You're allowed to go into the church. Why? Because the pictures are not there as an avodah zorah for you, not avodah zorah, not a place to daven. Place, somebody decorates his house the way he wishes, you cannot tell him how to decorate the house. Are you allowed to park the car in the parking lot of a church? Many churches are in Irvine, Chabad House has a church next door. Very often, when Sunday, they come to daven, shul is full of people, they park in the parking lot of the church. Are you allowed to park there? Says the Rav Wosner, the son of Rav Wosner from Bnei Brak, he's in Montreal, chief rabbi of the Hasidim in Montreal, he says, יהודי הרוצה לחנות בקר שלו, בפארקינג של בית התפילה שלהם, אם זה בלי תשלום ואין חשש למראס עין, לכאורה מותר. You're allowed to park your car there, even though you enjoy it, because you don't give an enjoyment to the church for you parking, unless if you park in a place where there is a meter on the street, and you avoid paying the meter, and you go to the church to enjoy the parking because you save some money, that they say you're not allowed. And it's not only he who say that. Usually you're allowed to. Or Bloomfield said you're not allowed to, and other people say they're not allowed to. So the question is, how about for voting? Are we allowed to go into for voting or not? Page number 20. Now we start to share on our subject. And I would like you, when you disagree with me, to interject, ask me, and disagree with me. And let's see if we have an intelligent discussion on this issue. Yaskil Avdi is Rav Ovadia Adaya. He was the Rebbe, actually, of Rav Ovadia Yosef. And he says, במדינתנו נהוג, כשהולכים לבחירות, when you go to election, for election, לפעמים הקלפי נמצאת בבית הכנסת בחדר פרטי. ומסתבר שבבית כנסת אסור. ולפעמים בבתי הספר. ולהבדיל, לפעמים בבית תפילוסו ממש. He didn't want to say בית תפילוסו, he said בית תפילוסו ממש. ונשאלה שאלה, אם בזה יש היתר. are you allowed to go into a church? And he clearly says you're not allowed to, because he brings a Shulchan Aruch in Yoredea Siman Kuf Memchet, which we have it on page number 21. If you look at page number, I'm sorry, Kuf Memchet is page number 1, yeah. And so that's what he quotes. And I read you page number 20 first. Also, likanes the best oivet kachovim, liten lo shalom. מצוא בחוץ מותר. אבל יאמר לו בשפה רבה וכובד ראש. So he talks about לבס אקום, ליתן לו שלום. You're not allowed to go into your partner's house. בס אקום is the בית פרטי, או בית בס אקום, עבודה זרה. I would assume, it says here, זה עבודה זרה, בס אקום נתן לו שלום. But the truth of the matter, if you look at the Shulchan Aruch, in Kuf Mem Aleph, in Kuf Mem Chet, in Aloha Tes, it says, also likanes lebes oive kachovim biyom chago. It was the house, the private house of oive kachovim. And you look at the Shulchan Aruch and the Tur at the bottom, Tet, also likanes lebes agoy biyom eido. The Bach says, also likanes lebes goy. So the bais, it was the house, private house, you're not allowed to go in. He doesn't talk about that you're not allowed to go into a church or not to go to a church. That's not halacha. It's not written any place. And this thing you can learn, it's a kal vachomer. If you're not allowed to go to the house, you're not allowed to go to the church. But if you have a reason, maybe you do. Litelo shalom is not a reason to go in. Litelo shalom is say hi. Say hi to him. If you have a reason to go in, from there, I don't think that you have a raya. Am I correct or not?
Yes.
It seems to me that Rav Ovadia Adaya, I'm sorry, he took from the lotion of the Shulchan Aruch even. Also, likanes lebes akum liten lo shalom. Lebes akum biyom chago, he says. Also, when you're not allowed to go in, Christmas Day you're not allowed to go. Easter you're not allowed to go. He doesn't say anything about not to go into a partner's house. You're not allowed to go. In Christmas Day, I understand you're not allowed to go. On Sunday, I assume maybe you're not allowed to go. But if the voting day is on Tuesday, where does he say, excuse me, that you're not allowed to go? He was the first to say no. And I'm just asking a question. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't learn correctly. It says, also liten lekanes lebes. Even you're at lebais of et kochovim. Biyom chago only. Not biyom chago. Why not?
Achshevei, Rav Tzvi, Achshevei.
It's achshevei. If you go in for some other reason, what is the achshevei? Achshevei is achshevei. I agree with you. It's achshevei. But it's not achshevei here. What is the achshevei? I'm going in for a voting. And Ramoshe says, I'm making a mitzvah. Whatever mitzvah is, it's a midah toiva. Midah toiva of Akoras HaTov is something that we in Balei Musar really emphasize. We forget about Akoras HaTov. Very often we forget about Akoras HaTov. Maharal says it's the first day of the Bria, the Geshem didn't come till the Behemoths were there. Why not? Says the Maharal, very simple. There was nothing for. The Geshem will be, we need to drink the water. There's no water to drink. Nobody drinks it. There's no water, no need to. It's very simple. Akoras HaTov is something that in the first day, first thing in Bereshit already came in. So what's going on here? You're not allowed to? You know, I understand. If it's Issur D'Oraisa, maybe I understand. I don't see even an Issur D'Oraisa. What is the Issur? Mishum Chashad. Chashad is the Rabbono. It's not even Marisayin. Marisayin, I understand Chadri Chadori, whatever it's Marisayin. Besides, I'm in a city that no Jews are there. In Crown Heights, that story doesn't exist. I agree, because there are Jews there. But I'm going to a church to vote, and I'm voting in the city of Commerce. Why shouldn't I? Okay. However...
Wait. So you're saying that in Hancock Park, you can't go into the church?
Definitely.
Voting day, on
voting.
voting.
But the day of voting, maybe there's no hashad because 10 people are going. And there's no hashad berabim. That's another halacha. That's another issue. Berabim, there's no hashad. If 10 people are going, there's no hashad. What is Rabim? Miut Rabim is Shnaim. So if there are two enough, two is good enough.
So nene also it's not relevant. Nehene is not relevant.
What is nene? From what we are nene?
He's saying because just being in the building and it's a protection and it's not cold, it's warm inside.
Protection, not cold. I don't think it's the nene. You're wearing a coat. If you're nene, if you enjoy the going, Tzitz Eliezer, if you're going to watch the pictures on the wall, that's nene. And we're going to go into nene in 1 second. That's the shir is about nene. I just want to give you the basic question about voting. And
the Shulchan Aruch writes in Yoredei Kuf Nun, mitzvah lehisrachek miderech avodah zarah.
Right.
So that's also only based on chshad?
No, do you tell me? I want to see where it's written mitzvah lehisrachek. Mitzvah lehisrachek is a musar. Yeah, the Shulchan Aruch is also a musar. They can say it's not just. You tell me what's the mocker.
The mocker
definitely. It's minim apikosim mitzvah lehisrachek. Not is badel mehem. All I agree.
The mocker is avodah zarah yud beis and aleph. That's the mocker. But you're saying that.
And the Ramah in Yoredei Siman Kuf Nun.
Yeah. What does he say? Tell me what they say. I don't have the Shulchan Aruch in front of me. You have the Shulchan Aruch in front of you. Okay, we'll go to the nene in a second. If you give me a step, because we go to the nene in the Ramah. The Ramah says, "She'im lo nene, you're allowed to." We go to that Ramah in a second. So I just want to continue. So I'm moving pages too fast. So I'll go further with you. Now, page number 24, for instance, the Moshe Sternbuch. By the way, I had the schus yesterday to read the Ksuva on a Zoom. There was a wedding in Israel, and I was asked to read the Ksuva. I read the Ksuva. The Messiah Kedushin was Moshe Sternbuch. The person, the halacha, that I'm allowed to read on a Zoom. And just one, probably I was the first in the world that reading a Ksuva on the Zoom yesterday morning on Zoom. So we can learn. We're allowed to watch now through Zoom and avoid the Zohar. Is it considered Reya or not? Is it considered Shmiya or not? There's no question about it.
I heard from Reb Herschel Schechter that those who watched the inauguration of Kennedy.
Levi of Kennedy.
Yeah, Levi Kennedy. The Levi of Kennedy. What the Moshe says, Rav Schechter said, that you brought the church into your house through the television. If you brought it into the house, if that's so strong, the television, Zoom should be able to do anything. Just the opposite. He ruled the idea of Zoom because there's a shaila, can you do Zoom or not? I already got some letters from people who told me that I was wrong and I'm not allowed to read Ksuva. That's another issue. That's another shir. But I just want to show you what you can do with technology today. So if you look, I read you the Chaya Levi. Chaya Levi says also in page number 26, Rav Moshe Sternbuch says you're allowed to go and vote in a church, but not in the church itself. He's talking about the next to the church, which means in a room which is next to their main echal, what they call it, in the church itself, what they call the room where they pray, they daven, I don't want to say daven. And the same says Rav Bosner on page number 26, הנה מצוי בכמה מקומות שעושים בחדר שתחת הטיפלה, הנקרא basement, in the basement of the church. אספות הצורך business, ופעם עשו שם בחירות, votes, they were voting there. ושאלו אנשים, אם מותר להיכנס לשם? They asked the people, are you allowed to go in? פסקו גדולי הרבנים, אין איסור בזה, כיוון באמס אין לה שייכות לעבוד אזורי. רק שהם מזכירים המרתף, you're allowed to go in. And that's actually what happened in most of the cases if churches are leasing or allowing the government to use for voting place. Yes, they are allowed to use, and they don't use the real church. So the question is, when you go in, is there chashad? If there's only one way, maybe it's also chashad. Says he, on the day of election, you're not worried because people go to the election. I will go with you in a second and tell you that Moshe probably doesn't hold like that. Because the Moshe says, and I'm going to be now using Machmirim because I'm looking at time, how long I have to speak here. The Moshe says, for instance, to the Sephardic temple on Wilshire Boulevard, which they daven with no mechitza, and they daven with microphone. They daven, actually, it's not a conservative shul. I don't think they're affiliated with conservative because the rabbi is a graduate of Keren B'Yavne. And they daven in microphone, and they daven with, again, men and women together. Reb Moshe would pass in Aloha, and you have the tshuva here enclosed. Reb Moshe would pass in, you're not allowed to go and attend a wedding, even in a hall next door. Next door means in the same building. Reb Moshe says it's you're mechazek, and he brings it a raya from walking the same in Avodah Zorah. You're not allowed to go to Avodah Zorah. And therefore he says, for instance, in Palm Springs, my cousin used to go to a shul in Palm Springs in a conservative building, and they had a minyan of a Orthodox minyan. Reb Moshe asked the Tachlis Isur, and maybe we'll have time to look in Reb Moshe as well. Reb Moshe said you're not allowed to go in. So Reb Moshe would say, in my opinion, Reb Moshe didn't write anything about it, but his Talmud, Rav Greenblatt, wrote that also to go. It seems from his Reverse Ephraim that you also to go and vote. And what is the reason? Because it is chashad. And for that chashad, Knisa Avodah Zorah, you're not allowed to. I don't know what he would say about a mosque. Moshe didn't refer to a mosque at all. At least I don't know if he did refer to a mosque. But the church, I would assume that Moshe say you're not allowed to go. And I showed you some of them say yes, and some of them say no. Now, I want to go into page number 32. Here the real shiur start. Yabia Omer brings a case of a Mesefer called Krach Shel Romi. Krach Shel Romi, they were at the time in Spain, I assume it was in Spain, and people did not know to sing well. And they wanted to prepare their davening for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, for Yomim HaNoroim. Okay? So they went to the church, Machorei Apargot, and we read it inside. It says here in the bottom, Krach Shel Romi Siman Aleph, המוזיקה של ימים הנוראים, צריכה כוונה, הכנעה גדולה, בקריאת אצלם חיזון. They were singing, they needed some great singing there. היו הולכים, so they went, the composers of the songs, of the melodies, היו הולכים בכנסיית הנוצרים, מאחרי הפרגוד בידי חגם להתלמד. They went to, at the day, or Sunday, or Christmas, or whatever the day is, they went to learn מהם אותו הקול המוכנע המסבר את הלב. To listen to the voice, to hear the voice, the good voice of them that they sing, and this, it was probably very emotional. והיו מסדרים מאותם קולות קדישים וקדושות דבר פלא. The songs were so beautiful that they had to learn from them. ומעשה רב כזה יודע כל האמור ונש לבדי בזה. says הרב עובדיה יוסף in חלק ב' in יורדיה, I don't understand, how did they go? נדחוק ללמוד זכות אבוי על זה. נראה שאין להם יודעים הלוך מן המעשה. To go into the church, מאחורי הפרגוד, how are you allowed to? אין זה מדרכי אורו, מפני הוא זה, על שאין לא אמינה ולא מסתפינה, כי אמס איזה רבונים שהולכו לבסט פילוסוף בסבירות כאלה, גרם לזה מפני שלא ייהנו בדבר. The רבונים didn't know what they're doing. They're not allowed to go in. Just to listen to music, you're not allowed to go. They listened to music and took it even to the Jewish songs. They learned Kaddish and Kiddusha. Can you imagine? He said yes, he said no.
He was actually, the Krach Shel Romi was a Rav in Rome, and also in the city of Corfu, which is right around there. And
Right. Sure, no, I've been there.
And also in Mitzrayim. So I don't know which church he was talking about. I just look at the tshuva. You have the tshuva here?
I have the tshuva here at the bottom. Okay, you page number 32.
Oh.
Anyway, that's so the question is allowed to listen to music or not. Look at Shulchan Aruch, page number 33. Aloha, Shulchan Aruch Yodea Kuf Mem Bes, Sif Tesvav. I hope you have it all. אסור לשמוע כלי שיר של אלילים. You're not allowed to listen to melody of Christmas melody, or להסתכל בנוי אלילים. You're not allowed to watch the beauty of the church. כיוון שננה בריאה, מחבר says clearly, nene is not allowed to. Okay? And that's the svora that we saw before of the Kesef Mishnah. However, comes the Ramo, ומיהו דבר שאין מסכוון מותר. You're allowed to. If you're not miscoven, you don't intend to, you're allowed to. What do you mean you're allowed to? Well, that's in the case. Says the Shach, Pashta de Milta, Mashmatam, Afilu Boider Avodas Kochovim. So what happens if I hear music and I'm not interested in the music? I hate this music. I don't love it. But it's on I'm going to the mall right now to buy something. And I need to shop. Who knows what? Shop a newspaper, shop a suit. And the music is Christmas music. Am I allowed to stay there or not? מבואר שם בסזו פוסקים, אפילו אפשר לא ללך מקום אחר, even if you go to another place, מותר שאינו מסכוון, I am going for buying a suit, and at the same time, there's music, I'm allowed to. However, it's a place where he could close his ears, he can close his eyes, ולשתום נחיריו, and לסתום his nose. ואז שלא ייהנה מן הכל, מערה והריח. And then, מותר, כשאינו מסכוון לאנוסם דלא בפסיק רישא, then, because it's not psig reisha, you're allowed to go even if you don't close your ears. You don't close your mouth. You don't close your eyes. You're also allowed to. So it says as follows. The Ramos says clearly, you're allowed to. But then, אבל במסכוון, אפילו אי אפשר ללכת למקום אחר, אסור. Is that what he's saying here? Are you agree with me on that? Is that what he's saying here? I don't see the light here. I don't see them, so I don't know if they care or they hear me. Do they hear me over there?
Yeah.
We're here. We're a big tzibur, Baruch Hashem.
Okay, so I'm just asking you. I don't see it because usually I see the public.
Let me show you.
So my question to you is, again, is that what he's saying, that you're allowed to?
No, you have to close your ears and eyes and nose. What do you mean?
No, it says, אפילו שאינו מסכוון. עליו אך יעשו.
Right, so what's your question?
I don't close my eyes, and I don't care. Is it okay?
No.
No, you should. No. אבל שמסכוון אסור. אבל שלא מסכוון,
Here, take a look at the tzibur here.
I don't hear. I see the tzibur, so I don't hear them though. And somebody has to say what they say, because otherwise it's not an interjection. Do you hear me?
We can hear you.
No, so I don't hear you.
Come right here.
He says that if you're to close your eyes and to close your ears, then you're fine, even if you
Is
don't.
that what you think? That's what he says. So take page number 34. I'm sorry. You know what? I show to you where you are wrong. Page number 34. Let's start with it, and then we'll Chofetz Chaim. Even Chofetz Chaim agrees with me. But let me show you. Was the question asked, Mesim Nesivos, is Mesim Nevonim. Mesim Nevonim is Rov in Borough Park, is the line of square. Square is not an easy chassidus, it's a very tough chassidus. Even Nishalti, he was asked a question. Nishaya Ovel Achar Aviv Rachman Litzlan. Somebody was an Ovel. ורוצה ללכת לבית הכנסת להספלל. He wants to go to the shul to daven. וללמוד. ושם בקרבת מקום יש מוזיק. The music, באופן שאי אפשר לא לשמוע. Yes to hear. מותר ללכת להתפלל וללמוד. אבל כשמשמיעים המוזיק קרוב לביתו, הם יכולים לסגור החלון כדי שלא ישמע מוזיק. Even at home. I have a neighbor that is very noisy. His music is Christian music. Do I have to close it? I have to close it? I'm not miscaben. I don't want. Tshuva. לפי אני הוזדייתי לאוויראיה, you guys have it? Page number 34? מה שמבואר ברמו לגבי מה דאית במחבר שם. דאוסו לשמוע כלי של אלילים, that's why learn או להסתכל, כתב שם הרמה, הוא מדבר שאין מסכב ומותר. באים בשח שכוסף, I'm reading the same שח. מבואר בש"ס ופוסקים, אפילו אפשר ללכת למקום אחר, מותר שאינו מזכבן. ומבואר בתוספות והראש, דמיירא בעניין שיכול לטום אוזניו ולעצום אוזניו, לסתום נסיריו, שלא ייהנה מן הכל המראה והריח. ומותר שאינו מתכוון להטעם גדולה בפסיק רישא, עליו והכי אסור. אבל במזכבן, now that's it. מבואר שם בש"ס ופוסקים, ואפילו אי אפשר ללכת למקום אחר, אסור. כלומר, כיוון שיכול לסתום אוזניו ולא לשמוע, או לסתום נחירה ולא להריח, או אם כן, לא בפסיק רישא, שיכול למלט בזה. לכן מותר ללכת, אפילו בסופו של דבר הוא אינו סותם אוזניו, כל שאינו מסכוון. What does he say here?
How do you say that?
Exactly what he says. What does he say? שאינו מסכוון. אינו מסכוון, אפילו פסיק רישא is מותר. That's what he says. You know what? You don't believe me? You really don't believe me, huh? Turn to page number 36. Lashon Hara, something that happens every day in the table in the house. I'm invited to a friend of mine. In the table in the house, in this house, we're sitting and talking, friends. And all of them talking Lashon Hara. I'm not allowed to listen to Lashon Hara. I'm very used to TORAH, right? I'm not allowed to listen. Says the Chofetz Chaim in Mekor HaChaim, page number Vav, page number 36, according to my booklet. Says here, אם אפשר לא ללכת ממסיבתם, if he can leave, או להניח אצבעו באוזניו, או close his ears, מצווה רבה הוא עושה בזה, כמו שאמרו חז"ל בכסורו. אבל אם אפשר לא להשתמש במחומתם, אבל if he cannot leave them, הוא משער עצמו שהעץ הזאת דוחק שהנחה אצבעו באוזניו, in this one, גם כי קשה מאוד, it's very difficult to close his ears, it's very difficult. Before שילגו עליו, because the people will laugh at him. They talking to Lashon Hara, and he's standing over there, putting his two fingers in his ears. No, they will laugh at him. בוודאי לא יעשה עצה זו, על כל פנים יראה, אז לזרז עצמו, להעמיד את נפשו בצרה זו, וללחום מלחמת השם עם יצרו, fight, inner fight with his נשומה, שלא ייכשל בשום, על פונם בסוד דאורייתא, שהשמיע זה קבלות לשון הרע. And therefore, it has to say what he has to say. Yachli benafsho be'eskem gamur. He has to say, I am tough, I won't accept. Lo la'amin l'divrei hagenut. He's listening to that. And lo la'amin. V'lo yenicha b'shmiat tziporiim. He doesn't want it. But the truth of the matter, he listens. He hears it. He's eno miskaven to hear it. No, I want to hear from you. Is he allowed to?
Meaning from the Chofetz Chaim, you want to prove that.
I don't prove. Chofetz Chaim himself says it.
Yeah.
He doesn't agree with Chai Odom. And that's what Chai Odom says. Let's Chai Odom. Page number 37. If you hear in the Ago, the Agav Nevar Dover Pele. I'm going to give you something that I don't know. Chofetz Chaim himself. מה שראיתי בחוכמס אודום, הלכות עבודת כוחו במזורס, אצרישנו, ואוסו לשמוע כלי השיר, להריח הריח, להסתכל בנויה, וכל שכן בעבודת גילוי לעצמו. ואם צורך ללך שם, יעתום אוזניו ויעצור אוזניו, ויש לו מחיריו שלא ייהנה. ואף אגב זה אינו מסכוון, כיוון דאב בפסיק רישא, אוסו. That's the לשונו. והוא תימה, מכמה תאומים, I disagree, said the Chofetz Chaim. The Shach says פסיק רישא. פסיק רישא ולא ימוס, you're allowed to. ואינו מסכוון, why? Because Anoah is nothing. Wow, huh? Now I want to hear from you.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
And the yesod is that if it's not your ma'aseh, and even though you could, in a situation, then what? It's ain't a miskabin. So Hilchos Shabbos.
If ain't a miskabin, it means I don't want it.
Right.
I don't care for it. I don't care for it. I don't want it. I'm allowed. Is that what he says? Chochmas Adam doesn't agree. I agree with you.
Yeah, Hilchos Shabbos.
Clearly.
No, not for Shabbos.
Also for Shabbos.
No, not for Shabbos.
Also for Shabbos is the same thing.
Not for Shabbos.
if you have no road, Chaim said, if you have no
You're walking
rutzen
the
to
centers.
do the malacha, then it would be allowed.
You're allowed to carry a chair on top of the grass if you don't want to do the grass anything. Why? Because you don't want the grass. That's the Gemara. That's Reb Shimon over there. He said, you're not allowed to. That's the Shabbos you're not allowed to. So somebody wants to say on Avodas Kochovim, maybe Chayodom is Machmir. Why? Avodas Kochovim is Imuna Yari Ba'al Yavo, maybe. Moshe Sternbuch says that. Okay, you have a story. But regularly, very clearly, I would say definitely you're allowed to. Isn't it true?
Yeah.
It seems to. And therefore, it seems to me that maybe, now we'll go back to the voting issue. Vote, if I go in on Tuesday when there's a voting day, and on voting day, many people, Hasidim, not Hasidim, Litvaks, Hasidim, Sfardim, all kinds of Jews, go into the church. We know, Berabim, there is not in Chashad. Chashad is only B'yochid, not Berabim. So Berabim, there is no Chashad. Lichora is mutar. There's no reason why it should be. Unless would say what Ramoshe says. Ramoshe has a tshuva in few places, and I will read you the Ramoshe tshuva in a second. I have to find it. Ramoshe is page number 52, 53, and 54. I alluded to the tshuva before. Ramoshe, page number 52, was asked as follows: אם מותר להיכנס להתפלל בחדר שבבניין בית הכנסת, שמתנהגים שלא כדין, שהוא כבר למקום תפילה כדין אנשים כשרים. Somebody, like I told you in Palm Springs, there's a shul in the conservative building, and they rented a place for a kosher place over there. So, בדבר להתפלל בבית הכנסת שעיקרו נעשה שלא כדין, שהוא בלא מחיצה בין אנושים ונושים, אך יש באותו בניין איזה חדר שירדו עבור אלו שאין רוצים להתפלל שם, שיתפללו בחדר שהוא מתנהגים שם כדין, like Orthodox Median, אם רשאים להתפלל שם, הנה, ואינו מפורסם לרבים, if people don't know, שיש שם מקום קשה להתפלל, עשו זה בבורו. Why? שהבאבוי לזורה שלא נחשדו, even they're not נחשדו, you're not allowed to go in. He compares it exactly to avoid the zore. Like in avoid the zore, you're not allowed to go in. You're not allowed to go to such a shul. And if people know, also you're not allowed to go. It's also like avoid the zore, says Ramoshe. And then he differentiates between chashad and marisayin. He says, why? Chashad is worse than marisayin. And this is avoid the zore. You're not allowed to go in. So he doesn't care if you're there or not. You're only going to daven yourself. You're not miscovered to go to other place. Says Ramoshe, you're not allowed to. Ramoshe says the same thing about, I have to find the other one, about the wedding. Ramoshe says you're not allowed to go to a wedding. What I mentioned before, a place that the conservative shul, if there's a wedding, you're not allowed to go in. Why? For the same reason. Here, page number 55. It's a fascinating tshuva. אם לילך על חתונה שתהיה באולם שנבנה לזה בבית כנסת של קונסרבטיב. הוא says רמוישה clearly, אכן הרבה שילכו להתפלל שם משומרי התורה, אין לחוש יחשדו, לעניות דעתי אף שנפסק אין דרבים לא חשיד, even רבים you're not חושד, he says ברמו, הבריז לרמו יורדי קמ"א, רמ"ד, אבל בדבר שלא חשיד הרבי מותר, he says בדבר שחשיד לי גם בחבורת קונסרבטיב, you're not allowed, יש את הרובס, נושים וגבורים, the men together, you're not allowed to go in. Because it's so to speak, avizara yudavud zore. If that's the case, by the way, Rosh Yeshiva Gdoila here in town, some of you Talmidim there, Rabbi Gross doesn't go into the temple to conservative shul. He doesn't go into any wedding that was in the Sephardic temple on Rosh Boulevard, because you're not allowed to go in. from B'nitz Ramoshe. That's Psak of Ramoshe. So it comes out very funny, and I say very funny, but very strange, Naloche-wise. According to Ramoshe, you're not allowed to go to the church, even for voting. Even though Ramoshe says go to vote for HaKoros HaTov, because it's important. HaKoros HaTov is very important, yes. On the other hand, to go into a shul that is conservative, you're not allowed to go in. Okay. Clear. I'm sorry. Okay. On the Ramoshe Sternbuch is the opposite. Ramoshe Sternbuch says you're allowed to go in to vote. You're allowed to go to a church to vote. So Ramoshe Sternbuch is the Meichel, and Ramoshe Feinstein is the Machmir. Comes out exactly the opposite from what is happening every place. And that's what people think. You are not allowed to go into a church. Sometimes you're allowed to. Pikuach Nefesh, you're allowed to. Maybe HaKoros HaTov, you're also allowed to. We're allowed to. Rav Yosef says you're not allowed to go into a conservative shul. Even though your partner is making a party there, a party is a Jew who makes it in a conservative shul. He says, even though it's HaKoros HaTov to go to your partner, you're not allowed to go HaKoros HaTov to give that up. So Rav Yosef would hold exactly like Reb Moshe Feinstein, who says you're not allowed to go into the church for voting. He didn't say anything, what I know directly, on with regards to voting. Though Reb Moshe Sternbuch claims, because he was in South Africa, he probably saw how the Jews would go, maybe anyway. He was matir them to go to the church, to the room next to the church, and maybe he would be matir to go to a wedding that is in the conservative place, because he wouldn't compare it to the Avodah Zorah. Even Avodah Zorah, he was matir to go. So he was matir here. So you see right now the machloikes on the various poskim here, whether you're allowed to go to vote or not. Even one little issue, you have to go and learn the mekoros, the sources of Shulchan Aruch and the source of the poskim, and then analyze why they say. Because just to say the psak itself is very easy, but if you know the why and the what and understand the mocker, then the shiur is, the aloche is completely different. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions to ask me, please. Thank you very much for listening.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Wait. I have a question.
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't understand that I understand the reason why you're saying there's no nen. You're also saying there's no reason, obviously, of Siman Kuf Mem Maches that Yaskil Avdi. But the biggest reason, which the Gra held, that there's a shail of Yarig Val Yavor is going into a church, is because of a chashad. Now, I understand what you're saying, that chashad, Rav Moshe Sternbuch has a very strong tzad to say that the chashad is mutter. But and I agree with you on voting day, l'chayre could be mutter. But stam azay, when are we gonna be matter something because of a chashad? What are the gedarim? You didn't elaborate on that. What are the gedarim of chashad? The Rashba says whenever you have derech acheres is mutter, but I would want to hear from you. Maybe there's what exactly the gather would be on that.
To answer you straight, I don't know the gather of chashad yet, because I don't understand what's the difference between chashad and marisayin. The way Rav Moshe explains that in the tshuva, Rav Moshe says chashad is, I'm choshed that somebody else would do it, but I will not do it myself. The person that is choshed, the person who suspect, the suspectee that did it, I don't understand him why he did it, but I wouldn't do it. Marisayin, I'm choshed that I would do it myself. That's what the difference is. Still, it's not clear to me what is the difference, but still, chashad is only, I'm suspicious you're doing it because you are oived avodah zorah. If I'm going to vote, there's no chashad. If everybody goes to vote, the rabbi goes to vote. You're chashed the rabbi.
Okay, but you agree that somebody going to a service like people have done in the past, there would be no heter. Going into actual church for the inauguration of a president, Mishum Shloim Malchus.
Okay, so
But that because he's attending a service. He's attending a service.
I hear that Shlom Malchus. Shlom Malchus, that's another shot. Rav Herzog went in, not in the time of the service. The Rabbi Luxstein went in the right of the service. That's another shir that I was involved. Though, on the other hand, people going to the church today, to the library of the church, in the library of the church, they also pray, what they call pray at the library. And at that time, many Jews went in. Rabbi Blau, there used to be, he went
Blai,
to
yeah.
Blai, not Blai, not
Blai.
He went to the church to pull out gnuzot, to pull out old sforim, and to save it for Judaism. So he went with a good target. He didn't go to daven. Would he be allowed to go in? In my opinion, he did, and he did go in. The 16th, but they in the Vatican, where they go there.
Tzvika, in the Asher Brander, in the many Makoros you brought in the pack, there's a letter of Rav Amar. There's a letter of Rav Amar. He talks about that. He talked about the Chidah. The Chidah went to the Vatican for the library. Is that the same Shaila? That's not the Makom Tefillah.
It is Makom Tefillah, like we daven sometimes in the hall, they daven there too. Yeah. So maybe it's not the Makom Tefillah Kavua. I'm not so sure it's not Kavua. It's also Kavua. They have the second minion over there. you understand? They asked why did he go in. Rav Herzog in 1945, after the Second World War, went to meet the Pope to save the Jews that were still in the church and the monks. So he did go. Would you tell him no? Would you say he shouldn't go because he's going to a church? Definitely, he was allowed to go. So the question is, I myself I met the Pope. I went to Dr. Lender to meet the Pope in Italy. So I went in. I didn't go into the church. He went to the Yarmulke. You brought the Gra. The church at that time, it was the German Pope, and he was with a big Yarmulke, and I was with the Yarmulke. Now, the Gro Pasin Aloha, Gro is unique in this Aloha. He fights the Moarik on this subject. On Lo Telchu B'chukas HaGoyim. We are not allowed today, many of them, Chayot or Pasin Aloha, you're not allowed to put grass on Shavuos in the shul or flowers decorated because the Goyim are doing it. And therefore, what did the Goyim do? We did it beforehand. We did it before Ar Sinai. That's why we do it. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says we do it. Mishtabur says now we don't do it because of the Gro. But the truth of the matter is, he went to Yarmulke and I was the Yarmulke. Should I take over the Yarmulke because the scholar has put on the Yarmulke? No. I really don't understand the Gro. I don't understand. You cannot. God says it's not written in the Torah and not allowed to. Whatever they do, we're not allowed to. We are not allowed to wear clothing.
There are certain things.
God says that. The Gra answers that, Rav Tzvi.
Yeah, what did he answer?
Whatever we would have done without the Goy, we could continue doing and ignore the Goy.
We would have done it without the Goy. We don't do it. The Chayot say not to do it.
No, maybe flowers is Avodah Zarah is matzeva. Avodah Zarah is different. Clothing, the Gra says, whatever normal, not that they adapted for Avodah Zarah. If they adapted for Avodah Zarah, then we have to let go.
But what do they care when they adapted? That's I don't understand the thought. We adapt.
There's a medrash that says about that they took the matzeva, even though we used to use a matzeva, but since the Goyim started being using the matzeva, so we started also. So based on that medrash, that's what the Goyim is going with in a few places. Also, the Chachmas Adam brings in that same place of the flowers that in the time they made all the Jews wear a certain uniform of the Goyim, and the Gra told the Chachmas Adam that it was Yareg Val Yavor for Jews to wear.
Let me tell you, Moshe, Psak Halacha and Masoros Moshe, it's not written, that the uniforms that the graduates of universities are wearing the gowns, those gowns you're not allowed to wear. He says, Yeshiva University, I don't understand Yeshiva University that they make them wear these gowns. So Moshe says that. And I don't understand. But why? Because the hats are Galach's hats. That's why, maybe that's what maybe started Galach's hat. But you're going to tell me about the flowers. Melamed le'oil says you're allowed to put flowers on matzeves. We're not knowing like that. But he says you're allowed to, clearly.
Why does the Kloisenberger say no masks?
He says no mask because mask is avodah zorah.
Is avodah zorah for us?
It's avodah zorah. Honestly, it's avodah for everybody. And I want you to know why. Because where do you learn that you're not allowed to go into avodah to a church? I know where. Because there's a pasuk, there's a gemara in avodah zorah daf yutet amud aleph.
Right, the price is there.
Minim and apikosim is avodah zorah. Kol sheken avodah beit avodah zorah. Anything, and now that's a big chiddush I'm going to say that I think I'm a chadashit. Somebody has believed in nature. He doesn't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He believes in nature. Nature, I don't know what nature means. I really don't understand what he believes. They call it now, I read about it, Reiki. Reiki, that's a group of the Scientology. There's some sort of Scientology. Is Scientology avodah zorah? Yes, it is. Why? Something you don't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you lack emunah, that's avodah zorah. Avodah zorah is not believing in something else. You're not believing in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, meaning in apikosim. In apikosim is avodah zorah. It's not is lacking emunah. That's a toast that we have. And it's not mine, it's a Gemara you test.
So you're saying going to the Democratic Convention is also a problem?
No, I don't know. You think about it. It's so true. Somebody, now, they use it right now. Somebody wrote differently. And it's not me, by the way. If you want to look at it in Mishnayos and Sanhedrin, in Perek Zayin, the first one, in Tiferet Yisrael, he talks about Kishuv. Yes, no, what is Kishuv? If you believe in Kishuv, it's avodah zorah. If you don't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you believe in Kishuv too, that's Shituv. What is Shituv? Shituv is not eternity, because you believe in Ois Aish. It's not Ois Aish, the issue. The issue is something with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It can be with. Either HaKadosh Baruch Hu or nothing. Nothing is also avodah zorah.
Right, but Rav Tzvika, Mazik Kashur the mosque. A mosque, they believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
But
Right, okay, yeah.
They believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay. You are right, they believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
The Rambam says that. In 3 places, the Rambam says that.
The Meiri says the opposite.
Okay.
The Kollel says the opposite. Tzvi Ryzman says the opposite. Tzvi Ryzman, Chelek Hey, I think Yud Aleph. It's here, both in here. Kollel it's the same thing. The mosque, because the Rambam lived in Egypt, he lived in Spain. Spain was mixed. And therefore, he had, I don't want to say no choice. It's dangerous to say when I say no choice. To say that Ishmael is okay. That. The Notzim not okay. The Meiri lived in France. He said, Notzim is not. And the mosque is. Explain. I cannot explain the Rishonim sometimes.
The Rambam wrote a letter to Taiman. Taiman's not Spain. And he told them in Taiman, it's not Ya'agol.
But he wrote. I don't know how much he knew about Taiman itself. I know it's not Spain.
He was living in Egypt at the time.
I know. That's why he said about Ishmael. He said what he said about Ishmael, partly because he's influenced by this surrounding. And we are also influenced. We are not influenced by our surrounding. We definitely are influenced.
Well, we want to thank Reb Tzvi very much for that unbelievably fascinating shiur.
Thank you.
And Mirza Hashem, that we should be zochet to see him in person very soon also.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming and listening. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the next time.
Thank you. Okay.